I've spent over 600 hours implementing Claude Cowork into multiple businesses, including my own. By the end of this video, you're going to be an expert at Claude Cowork, and you're going to be able to integrate this into your business and your day-to-day life. So let's jump right into it. So here I am in Claude Desktop. Now, in the past, you needed to have Claude Desktop to actually use Claude Cowork. Cowork was Anthropic's solution to OpenClaw that got released earlier this year. And as of last month, Anthropic actually now has Cowork working on the cloud. So if you were to run anything right now through Claude.ai, you would then have it running in Claude servers, Anthropic servers, and only when it needs something from your machine will it come down and pull from your machine, which is a recent change because by default, everything always ran locally in a local sandbox on your machine, which a sandbox is just a confined environment that the AI can operate in with specific rules, parameters, and files, and it cannot go outside of that. So protecting your machine overall. So in the past, we would have had Cowork at the top left with home, Cowork, and code. But now when you are at the home, you have chat and you have Cowork. And once I click on Cowork, you see a few options pop up. We have a project or folder. We have the permissions we can give it. And we have, what model we can select, all that sweet jazz. But before I jump into that, I actually want to jump back and talk to you guys a little bit about what's the difference between chat, Cowork, and Claude Code. Now, chat is just a conversation. It's very straightforward. There's no file access that it inherently has unless you upload it. Cowork is akin in the back end to Claude Code, where they both kind of work off the same agentic architecture. They are working towards a goal until completion, until a task. So if you say, I want you to build me this beautiful file, this beautiful PowerPoint that goes over our marketing spend for Q4, it'll go through until that task is done and get it completed. If you were to tell it, you need to reach out to our database and see how much everyone spent in the marketing team, it'll go ahead and do that until completion. So it's a working session that runs until end to end. Claude Code is built more so for developers and it's more hands-on and there's more of a learning curve with it, but they both have the same architecture underneath. Now, you define the goal and Claude's just going to figure out how to get there. Now, how do we get it there faster? How do we get it there more efficient? And how do we save you money while using Cowork? Those are all things that we'll cover near the end of the video when we get to skills and connectors and things of the sort. So let's jump back. I'm going to pick a folder for it to choose from. Now, these folders are only once you assign a folder, this is the only location Cowork actually has access to. So for example, this is my users, Kevin videos folder. If I were to give it this folder access, it could only work in this videos folder. It won't be able to work outside of it unless if I provided access. But I'm not going to do that. So let's add a new folder right now. We're going to go to desktop. And we're going to go to demo invoices. We're going to go to invoices. I'm going to select that folder. Now, I went ahead and generated with Claude Cowork actually 80 invoices. And all these 80 invoices, pretty much they're just going over who's paid me, who hasn't paid me, and who do I have to collect the money from. Now, that's a lot of things that I would normally have to do all by myself manually, because they're all on my machine, but I'm going to get Claude to go ahead and do that for me and generate a report. I'd like for you to go through all the invoices in this folder and develop me an Excel file. That's a report of how much money we've made. So how many of the invoices have been paid, how many of them are open and outstanding and still need payment, how deferred is payment, how long have we been waiting for payment, and split everything up by supplier. Now it's going to say, do I give it access to this folder? I'm going to say, don't ask again for this folder on this device. And I'm going to click allow. So now it's going to start looking, and then it's going to develop a task. And you see, if you're not as zoomed in as I am for the Claude desktop app, you're going to have this progress bar on the right-hand side. And it's actually going to be developing a task and showing you what step in this workflow are we in. The context that it has is the invoices folder. If you were to add more context, you can add files to it. This is just information it can pull from that'll help it complete its task more efficiently. And then the outputs would be what it actually generates at the end, which what I hope is the Excel file I asked it for. So I figured while this is actually churning, let's talk about the loop that we just essentially invoked into Claude. So I described my outcome, which in this case was I want an Excel file, right? So I said, hey, make me an Excel file detailing all the suppliers and how much who's paid and who has it. And so it's going to analyze the request and it's going to build out the plan, which is what it's doing right now. And then it breaks these plans into subtasks. You're going to see step 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it runs code to get this done. And this is where I was talking about earlier, sandbox. It creates an isolated environment, aka a sandbox, where it just runs all this code and it uses the command console or shell to get the job done. Normally, this was run on your machine, but now it runs on Anthropic servers, and only when it needs things on your machine does it come down and use it. And then if it has to, it'll coordinate parallel sub-agents. It'll just run multiple agents together in unison to get the task done, and then it'll deliver the finished output. And then the entire time throughout this entire process, you can tell it to do whatever you want. Like you can say, actually, don't make an Excel file. Make me a PowerPoint or something like that. And it'll respect that and go through it. So you see here now it's on step 1. It added a task. It's actually asking me a question. Every invoice in this folder was issued by, let me zoom out. Every invoice in this folder was issued by Cool Haven Creative Studio to a client. There's only one supplier. Should I split the report by client instead? Yes, split it by client. One document is a credit memo. How should I handle it? Netted against revenue. So now that those clarifying questions are out of the way, we're going to see that it's going to continue to build out this plan and then knock out every subtask until completion. So I want to demonstrate that you can interrupt this task while it's running. And so it currently has a skill, an Excel file skill, where it's going to generate it. And you see that it's invoked here at the bottom of the context. But I also wanted to create me a 2-slide PowerPoint. Can you also make me a 2-slide PowerPoint once you're done? Because I really think that's important to get the bottom line up front across to the investors. So you see now it's going to take that into account when it is creating this Excel file as well. And so it says, got it. I'll add 2-slide investor deck once the workbook is done. And this is while it was running a command. So Claude finished and created for us a spreadsheet and a presentation. And this is a spreadsheet on the right-hand side, but I'm going to download it and open it. You see here, it created a beautiful account receivables report. There are 79 invoices, and it has an equation, or it's actually referencing F23, which is by client. So you see it's pretty elaborate. Where's F23? No idea how it referenced that, but by client, that's a different page. Oh, this is sweet. So it created multiple worksheets with different tables in it. Invoices issued, paid in full, still open, total invoice, credit memos, net billed, and it scanned all 80 invoices to do this. This would have taken somebody a day, maybe 2 days to set this entire thing up. Then this would have been a template going forward in the department because of how well the first person did it. Oh, this is great. And it's got notes. So in summary, it gives me everything. And it says outstanding balance is pretty high, 268,000, $250,000. I'm gonna have to get on top of these people. That is the Excel file it made. And then let's see the PowerPoint that it threw together for us. So this is the bottom line up front. We have earned the revenue. We have not been paid for it. Cash collected is 21 grand and still outstanding 268 grand. And so you see Claude generated all this for me. It went through all the documents in that folder and got the job done. And it did it on its own. It didn't actually have to ask me. And this is probably a good point where we talk about permissions. So manually approve is every single action Claude takes. It's going to ask you, hey, approve or deny. Whereas automatically approve is going to, as the name implies, automatically approve every action unless if it deems it unsafe. If it's a destructive action like delete your entire folder, it's going to ask you, do you approve or deny? And then skip all approvals, does whatever it wants. Now, automatically approve uses more of your usage limit because of these check-in gates where it's asking you, hey, should you approve or deny this request? Automatically approve should be more than enough for anything. Or if you're feeling dangerous, just run skip all approvals. Now let's talk about the system prompt that you can provide Claude Cowork. If you go down to the bottom left and you click on your name and you go to settings, and we'll go to Cowork settings, There's actually a few different settings here, and some of these we'll get to later on in the video. But if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you have global instructions. Now, these are instructions that will apply to every single Cowork session. So every time you open it, whether it's through your phone or whether it's through the desktop app, it is always going to abide by these rules first and foremost. So for me, I have a response style where I just don't like how it's very verbose and it goes on these long-winded essays and dissertations when I just asked it, what's the best place to get food in Orlando, Florida? I tell it to be concise, be direct, be punchy, prefer short sentences, and then I give it hard rules. No M dashes, you probably know by now. Every single AI loves these. They're infatuated with M dashes. So the way we can, the more we can get rid of that, the better. And then just more stylistic guidelines here. But that's the system prompt. And so now every time you open up a new session, it is going to respect that system prompt. One of the most important things when working with AI is the concept of context, which is what I like to essentially call short-term memory for an AI. And as you and I both know, short-term memory is finite. And the more we stuff into our short-term memory, the more we're going to forget things. And I go more in depth into that concept in a different video, my Claude Masterclass video, which should be somewhere on the top. And you can click on that and jump over to the context session and then go way more into detail. But context here is a bit different, or it can work a bit different than in the normal Claude chat interface. So in this chat alone, you can add context to it, like a new folder. Here you see it's the invoices folder. It also shows the skills that it loaded, which is the Excel skill and the PowerPoint skill. So it can make them. And then I can add another folder. So if I were to go ahead and add another folder, now it has access to these Deal Lab videos on top of the invoices. And so this chat alone will have all that context. But the more context you give it, the more convoluted the responses get. So you got to be very careful. Now, if we jump over to projects, which I also cover in the Claude Masterclass video, are pretty much just isolated containers for your chats and context. So you can put a bunch of documents into a project, which you can think of as a folder. This folder now is the master at that one thing. So for example, I have one for YouTube that has a bunch of YouTube guidelines and a bunch of YouTube documents, and it can reference those every single time we're in a chat. But the Stroiko Labs dashboard doesn't have any reference to that YouTube project. So let's make one. Or to use a folder, and I want to use the one that we actually just had, demo invoices. So now that I've given it the demo invoices, it says the project is demo invoices, the instructions. You are going to be my bookkeeper, accountant, and I need you to be spot on for tax season. And then that is the local folder, and you can even add more files to it. Now, this visibility is local, and it's just telling you this is going to stay on your computer. This is not going to sync and share with the cloud version of Claude. And this only happens when you try to create a project from a folder. So now I created the project, and you see it has the context of demo invoices. So if I were to ask it right now, what is our highest outstanding invoice? Highest meaning highest unpaid value. So it's going to check the invoice folder, and it's listing the files on the computer, and then it's going to read the files and come up with an answer. And you notice as well at the top right, now we have the demo invoices folder there. Claude finished, and it said my extraction from 80 PDFs matches the folder's answer key exactly. SableWorks Manufacturing, $21,300. Then it gives me the next 4. And then it gives me some things worth flagging. So this is great. And this was very concise. It wasn't verbose. So these are projects. And every single time you talk in this chat, in this project, and you make chats in these projects, they'll all show up here only. You won't find them in the regular chats and tasks bar on the left-hand side. I am going to talk to you about memory. So if you go to customize, the last option is memory. Claude by default should probably already have this one on, but this, if you have search and reference chats on, it allows Claude to search for relevant details in your past chats. If you were talking about a client you were working with a month ago, it'll go back and find that information for you. And then the second option is generate memory from chats. It allows Claude to generate memory where it stores persistent memory. You can think of it as like a very summated version of a chat. So if you have a very long chat talking about how you fired someone, hired someone, move to a different city, all that, it'll summate it into maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs and save that to memory. So going forward in different chats, it's always going to reference that. I don't have this enabled because I don't want all my chats to go to memory, because it's actually going to convolute my memory and push me into, I call the dumb zone in context memory. So I avoid that entirely. And I would recommend you not to do it either. Now, I want to talk about skills. And so what are skills? Essentially, they are repeatable steps, a standard operating procedure that a LLM AI model can follow to achieve a goal. So the analogy I love giving, and I gave it in my skills video, you can see it up above, is you're intelligent, you're extremely smart. But if I gave you a Rubik's Cube, you wouldn't really know how to solve it. You'd probably have to go online, look up the steps, and then start playing around with it. But if I gave you an outlined step-by-step guide on how to complete the Rubik's Cube, you'd do it pretty quickly. That outline I gave you is a skill. We can actually extend it even further and bundle that outline with maybe, let's say, an image of what the Rubik's Cube looks like completed, so that you know what completion actually looks like. And so when we bundle all that together, the image, the outline, everything together, that is a skill. The way we would get to them here is if we jump to customize. So these are all the skills I actually have right now. Now, these are separate from your Claude Code skills. I have dozens of Claude Code skills, but these skills are what's between your Cowork application and the regular Claude AI application on the web. And you can add them by just naturally talking to Claude, writing a skill instructions file, or uploading a skill. And this is how I've actually uploaded different skills of mine from Claude Code. You can also browse. So natively, Anthropic provides you skills that they create, and it's already on your Claude instance, but they also have more that you can procure yourself. So if you go and you see these are all made by Anthropic, you see they have MCP Builder, Theme Factory, Web Artifacts, Brand Guidelines. They have some cool ones, some funny ones, Slack GIF Creator, or the algorithmic art. That was hard to pronounce. Once you click on that, it'll be installed on your machine. From there, you'll have the skills needed to complete whatever you want. But if we went back to that task of ours, you'll notice that these 2 skills are already here. This was the Excel skill and the PowerPoint skill I was talking about earlier. These are the ones that are invoked by Claude automatically on your machine that are already built in. And if we look at it, you see it's very in-depth. We have a bunch of code files, a bunch of .xsd files, which I don't know what those are, just a bunch of files to help it get it done, and then the skill.markdown file, which is the overall operating procedure on how to use everything in this folder. So those are skills. If you want a more detailed breakdown, go to the video at the top. And probably the last thing about skills is the way you would invoke them if you wanted to is that you would just do a /. So once you press /, you'll see all your skills pop up and a few other commands. But these are these skills, and you can just select them. So I have a skill that enhances the audio that you're listening to right now. And at the end of this recording, I just have Claude go in, look at that video, and send it to a third-party API provider, bring me back the enhanced audio, and then I just use it in the video. All that is brought into this skill. And those are skills in a nutshell. Now let's talk about plugins. All right, so now let's talk about plugins. Plugins are essentially just a combination of skills, connectors, subagents, and instructions. So you are essentially giving an identity to your AI when you give it a plugin. And the way you can create plugins is, or not create them, but you can install them, is if you go to customize, you go to the bottom where it says plugins, and I have one already that's called data, but you can add one from the marketplace. You can browse Anthropic or add one from a repository, but let's just go to Anthropic's. And you can see a bunch of them here. They have legal, life sciences, healthcare, a bunch of different identities you can essentially provide to your AI. So let's use this data one. This one allows you to generate insights faster, build visualization and dashboards, and turn raw data into clear stories for stakeholders. And it gives you all the skills that it has, and it tells you what each skill does. Like build dashboards seems pretty useful for my invoices. And then it gives you some examples on what you can ask to get it to invoke this plugin. And then it shows you the connectors. Now you would need to hook up to these connectors yourself. So by installing, you would just essentially invoke your credentials. So if you were to do Databricks, you would probably have to input your credentials into Databricks so that it can connect to your Claude account. So let me jump back to a chat. And now I'm going to click this plus sign and click plugins, do data, and I'm going to do build dashboard. Are you able to build out a dashboard for me that shows how much money is outstanding, meaning how much do clients still owe me, how much money have I collected across all the invoices in our folder. Press allow. And really quickly, you see the progress it made for subtasks. Extract data from all 82 invoice PDFs. I am cooking my tokens right now, but extract data from all 82 invoice PDFs, reconcile duplicates, build the AR dashboard, verify the numbers. And you see that it's invoking the build dashboard skill as well. So I finished building the dashboard. Let's take a look at this. Look at this beautiful dashboard. Shows all the clients. I can filter it by the clients. It shows by billed and collected. Invoice details. So this is a really cool visualization of all the data in those 80 invoices. And then I can download this. It's HTML, so you can see the code as well if you're into that type of stuff. But this is what the dashboard looks like. And that was all developed using the build dashboard skill within the data plugin. So that's plugins in a nutshell. Let's now talk about connectors. Connectors are essentially you're giving AI access to tools that it doesn't natively have. And a connector allows you to do that. It connects your AI to that third-party application and the tools to access the data in those third-party applications. So for example, if we go to customize, you go down to connectors. These are all the ones that I have. But let's first go to add connectors and go to browse connector. And so you can hook up your Gmail, your Google Drive, your Google Calendar, etc. AI doesn't natively have the capability to do that. But when you connect your Gmail account to this connector, then your AI is going to be able to tap into your Gmail and see your emails, summarize your emails, and draft responses for you. And there's thousands of connectors. They keep making new ones. It seems like every day for practically everything. And they're extremely useful. So I implore all of you to download connectors or install them into your Claude environment. Now, the unique connector just for Cowork is, it's not really a connector. You're just giving access to Chrome. So Claude and Chrome is just a connection that you can provide for Claude Cowork. And so you just want to make sure when you jump down to you're in settings and you jump down to Claude in Chrome, you enable Claude in Chrome. And then once you click on that, you will be able to now surf live your Chrome browser with Claude. So let's give that a shot right now. Using Claude in Chrome, can you look up and analyze what's the best Airbnb I can stay in Blue Ridge, Georgia? Now we're going to send that off and we should see a Chrome web pop up and you'll actually see Cowork working live on that. So you see it says Rand skill, Claude and Chrome, checking open tabs. Let's open this side window here. Search Airbnb for Blue Ridge, compare top candidates on price, rating, amenities, verify availability, and pick a winner. Claude and Chrome, browser 1. All right. So you see it has a tab that it makes and it says Claude on it. And now this is how you know this is the Claude controlled tab. And if I click on it, we'll actually see it navigating. You can see where its cursor is denoted by the orange cursor. And you actually see it click around as it does things. So jump to the first Airbnb it saw. And now it's going to analyze this page, gather all the details, and then jump back out to probably the main view where all the properties are, and then jump into another potential property. We've now moved on to the next property, and it's going to analyze this and just, it jumped to a third property already. Jump to the fourth one. And so Claude eventually, I believe, settled on this one because now it finished and it is giving me a breakdown. The recommendation is the Gatsby. And so it did all this using my Chrome browser. So you can see for me, the use case of Claude and Chrome because a lot of AIs can do this where they can just search the web or scrape information. But there are a lot of websites that do not allow that. There are a lot of social media platforms that do not allow that. Or maybe you have like a third-party CRM that doesn't let you. You can't scrape into it and there's no API for it. Then Claude in Chrome is your best bet to automate any process in there for you. It can do the button clicks for you. Claude in Chrome, another good example for it could be for county searches. So if you want to look up the deed or mortgage of a property in the county, you can get Claude and Chrome to go do that for you. Let's now talk about Dispatch. So Claude Dispatch lets you use your phone, control your computer. So here is Dispatch and it's in beta. If you click on it, you're gonna have to use a QR code, sign up with your phone, connect your phone to the Claude account on the Claude desktop app. And then you have a few settings on the left. You can keep your computer awake while it is completing these tasks. You can enable mobile notifications and allow all browser actions to be done. And then you can set the code permissions on what code it can actually execute. What I'm going to ask it to do now is on my phone, I'm going to reach out to it and tell it something like, I have a file on my computer that you can find. It's a markdown file. You can find it on the desktop within a folder called Deal Labs Videos. It's the Deal Labs Videos course outline. I need that course outline because I need to draft a message and send it to a colleague of mine in Slack. I had a brain fart there. Now, if I scroll down, I have this message on my phone and I'm sending it off and you're going to see it pop up right here. And then on my phone, let's say I'm out, I see that it's loading. It's probably going to ask me for permissions. Pulling the outline now. And on my phone, just like it says there, allow Claude to co-work in my Y drive. And I'm going to click allow once. So Claude now wants to use Notepad. And when it wants to invoke an application, it's actually going to close all the other ones. So you're going to see this screen close in front of me right now. So now Claude is using your computer and you can actually tell it to stop. If I were to click that stop button at the top right, it'll do so. Now it just jumped into the Deal Labs Videos folder, which is what I wanted to do. Now it jumped actually to my other monitor that I have here, and it is looking at where File Explorer opened up. So you might not be able to see that right now. Now I probably just trolled it because I moved the File Explorer from that monitor to this one so that you can see it. It finished. I don't have enough space on my disk. I'm pretty surprised because I had trolled it earlier and I moved the File Explorer to our main screen here, and it brought back the entire schema. That's Dispatch. It brought back all my applications after this finished, but I will admit this is really buggy. This is why I don't use it a lot. Now let's talk about artifacts. And we actually already made one with that dashboard. An artifact is just a reusable piece of content, a file, HTML, a Word file, text file. Those are artifacts. And you can share those across with multiple people. Now, the ones that we made here locally using Cowork cannot be shared natively, but the ones you make on Claude AI on the web application, you can share and actually post those live. And it's kind of interesting. If you were to Google Claude artifacts and you type in something like financial dashboard or something, you'll see all these public URLs of people's artifacts that you can go take a look at. So let's now talk about scheduled tasks. Now, it's a very straightforward concept. It is everything we've just done in Cowork, but on a schedule. So if I wanted to have all those invoices done every single day, maybe at 8 a.m., I can schedule that task. Now, this is new that you can run these in the cloud. Normally, you'd have to run these on your local machine, and you'd have to keep your machine on. So there's an option here that says keep awake. And if you don't have that option on, the next time your computer gets turned on, it'll run all your scheduled tasks. But if you keep it awake, it won't go to sleep, and these scheduled tasks will run at the time they're allotted. So for example, this daily AI news watch that I have that sends me a Slack message every single day, it runs at 8. If my computer is off, it will wait until it's on, and then it'll run it at whatever time I get on. So if I were to look at Slack right now, I have it sending me a message every day. So this one was at 9:25 when I turned on my computer. This one was at 7:07 when I turned on my computer, 9:46. And it's just sending me updates as to what it saw people on YouTube do and what are good videos to make. So that is the schedule I have running, these scheduled tasks. But you can also just create a new task by talking to it naturally in Claude, or you can set it up manually. Now, I think the easiest way is to just create this with Claude naturally. Once you do that, it says, I want to set up a scheduled task, briefly explain how scheduled tasks work in Cowork, and ask me a few questions to figure out what should I do. Now, you don't necessarily need to do this in the way that I just showed you, going to the scheduled section and then going to new. You can just go directly to new and talk to it. This is a more guided approach to creating the task. What should the scheduled task actually do? Real estate data pull, Slack/team, digest, monitor something in alert, email plus calendar brief. I'm going to say Slack/team every weekday morning. And how do I want push notification email to myself just in this session, saved file or artifact? I want it to be just in this session. What Slack channels should the digest cover? Now, these are actual Slack channels in my Slack account. I'm going to do deal labs. When should it run? Let's run it at 9. What should the digest emphasize? Things needing my reply. And so it's going to show the scheduled task, and it's going to show the details. Produce a short weekday morning Slack digest for Kevin. Here are the steps. And so it's going to do that every single time. And now I'm going to schedule it. Done. It's live. First run is today at 9 a.m. So now I'm in here and I can see the scheduled tasks view. And these are the instructions. And when does it repeat? And the permissions it is granted. Now this is running in the cloud and I have it active. Now this looks very similar to Claude routines, which you can find in Claude Code. And there's a video above going over an entire masterclass on Claude routines. For now, let's just run this scheduled task out of sync. And you see it shows a history ledger. And this is the first entry in that ledger. And when you click on it, it'll take you to that run. And if you have multiple runs, you can click on those runs and they'll have their own run window that you can chat with. It's reading through the thread messages and channel messages. And so here it is. It says needs my reply. One of my buddies asking me questions about a product we're about to ship, and then other notable activity. These are all things related to the app that I've built out. So that is a schedule, and it's running every single day now at 9 a.m. And this is the history ledger. Those are scheduled tasks in a nutshell. You now know everything you need to know about Claude Cowork, and you're exposed to all the surfaces you can access it in. Now, I got a bunch more content coming. If there's anything you'd like to see in particular about anything, drop it in the comments and I'll make a video on it.